What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined, massive round of applause, first and foremost, by Paul Hall.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
We are also joined by Ranty Flat Earth, Righteous Force, Flatzoid, and 10th Man in G+. Very good to have you all.
Good morning.
Howdy doody.
And obviously a whole bunch of people
Hello.
in Discord as well. Hello everyone in Discord, good to have you all.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Not from Southern California.
I've been searching and still nothing.
There is no signs of curvature, Nathan. I keep going out, having a look, can't find it. I keep trying. I do.
Got all the equipment for it too, eh, Ranty? And you're not finding it, eh?
I'm not finding it as much as I'm trying, and I genuinely am trying really hard. And even though the globe heads admit, but they don't realise it. I might share my screen actually and just show you this. Share screen. Share the screen. This up. No. There we go. So I got a message from Travis, and he said that Stupid Monkey put this as a comment to try and debunk the Lighthouse observation that I did this week. And he says, I did a video on this a while back. To research it, I contacted the Lancaster Port Commission to confirm the focal height. This is a Walney Lighthouse. They advised it was 70 feet above mean high, whatever it is, high tide, basically, high water tide. It is not measured against average tide height. The location, it's 9.67 meters, that's being the high tide. So it's higher than Ranty thinks. Well, that isn't the case, because I actually, in my video, I actually put all this in. I actually include all this, and it was actually 20 feet below high tide. So including high tide, which would be 70 feet, 90 feet above sea level when I saw the actual lighthouse. If we look at if we look over here at the Earth curve calculator, Nathan, I know you don't like this, but I put those details in, 18.9 miles, 5 feet viewer height, including refraction, which nobody believes in because they'd be idiots to believe in that, 145 feet missing. That's 55 feet more than what, even with refraction. The geometric hidden is 174 feet. So even though they get messages from these clowns saying, okay, so we realized essentially we were seeing the lighthouse at 90 feet. It's in their faces and they still ignore it. They just want to argue over whether it's high tide or mid tide.
They should be thanking you. The fact that you're entertaining them using the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator, they should be thanking you. It's like, if they tried that crap here, you know what I'd say? Oh, right, yeah. Where's your proof of R? Why are you ignoring perspective? Why are you hijacking perspective and calling it Earth curve? Why are you claiming that the edge of your model is the horizon? Show me this edge. Take me to this edge that this boat's going over as it gets too small to see.
Here's the lighthouse, Nath, on video. 5 feet above actual sea level with a tremendous swell, actually. Tremendous swell and high waves. The wind was blowing at 17 miles an hour. And yet we still see the lighthouse. Obviously, because the Earth is flat and water isn't curving. But these globe heads will turn around and say, oh, yeah, we're seeing that, even though 90 feet or so of it should be hidden to Earth curvature. And if you give them refraction, 55 feet should still be hidden to Earth curvature. We bloody see it. It's there. It's not... it really is beyond belief that these clowns will argue over 2 or 3 feet, but they won't admit that we're seeing something that we shouldn't see if we believe in their globe model. Right?
Let's just
this
give
is how
the spiel.
thick they are. Look,
Let's just give the spiel then. So, Warmley Lighthouse, what's the distance?
18.9 miles away.
So there is fact. Warmley Lighthouse at a distance of approximately 18 miles. However, if you are a fundamentalist religious zealot with a globe belief, it's an extreme looming non-standard refraction holographic projection of a lighthouse from behind the reified edge of an Earth curve model based on a begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator to turn Warmley Lighthouse into a mirage. We just say Warmley Lighthouse, distance 18 miles, Earth is obviously unobservably flat. Fundamentalist globe heads say, nah, it's not really there.
Yeah, it's not really a light from the lighthouse that should be lost to Earth curve. It's looming, Nathan. It's a mirage.
Yeah. Extreme looming.
Super duper looming.
Super looming, that's the one, not extreme looming. It's super looming. What's super looming? Well, it's where we take our arbitrary application of refraction and just make it more severe, making the Earth more flat in our model.
Wait a minute, let me analyze this. Isn't that what Stanek said yesterday on his toe tag? Like, well, let me look. What am I seeing here? Trying to analyze it.
Yeah, well, we're seeing a lighthouse.
Yeah, lighthouse, 18 miles. Earth is flat. What's that you say? Not a lighthouse, a mirage? No, it's just a lighthouse.
Well, let me calculate refraction. Let me do the calculate. Oh, wait a minute. What if we put a string on it? Wait a minute, okay?
It's funny as well, because it's quoted, listen to this, Nathan. Warmley Lighthouse is quoted as being observable for up to, I think was it 24 or 26 nautical miles, even though that defies the globe. It is impossible on the globe for it to be seen that far, but it's quoted that the light can be seen from that distance. Yeah?
Well,
and yet, so what they're doing is they're coming back and they're saying, well, okay, well, it says that the lighthouse can be seen from 26 miles. It says that.
Yeah, but it says, hold on, it says, what that means, it says, well, no, we use our eyes to see things. We're flat earthers, we're realists. We just look and see a lighthouse. You tell us what your model says should or shouldn't be there. We don't live on your model. There's the lighthouse, we see it. Who cares what your model says?
Even though, right, the Earth curve calculator says that you shouldn't see it, right? Go figure, right? It's quoted that you can see it from 24 to 26 miles away, but when you actually put those details, let's put that in actually. Let's go and say, let's put 24 miles in, and let's see how much should be hidden. So hidden geometrically should be 301 feet, but it's only 69 feet above high tide. So how on earth is the claim that you can see it from that distance anyway, in any way, shape or form, consistent with the globe model?
Why are we comparing it to a globe model? I trust the evidence of my own eyes when it comes to what we can see, as opposed to a begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator telling me what I can and can't see when I got a set of eyeballs.
Well, now here, remember, in the model put into place, because you have limited understanding of your hypothesis,
Not a
it's Nick West.
hypothesis. No. I didn't offer any hypotheses. I
I know.
offered the evidence of my own eyeballs.
Oh no, I get that, but wouldn't Ranty's observation? He put all his information in that and disproves Mick West's model just now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Essentially. Yeah.
Yep.
That's basically it.
But explain land surveyors.
Huh?
That's the argument they usually bring to me. Land surveyors. They prove a globe.
Right, I'm going to read out a couple of super chats. Godzilla37, thank you very much indeed for your support. Is it? I can't read that word. Pilpy is all globers have. What the hell is that? Pilpul. Pilpul. Anybody know what that word means? Pilpul.
No.
I think it's a misspelling. It's all the globers have, but it's endless. Thank you for your shows, Nathan. My thanks for your super chat. Really appreciate it, Godzilla. Daylo, Ohio. Nathan, I don't care what shape you think the Earth is. If you like cars, I like you. I like you, Doug. You had a big block. Heartbreaking story. Doug's had to sell his big block. So, unfortunately, we could have a moment's silence, but might not be appropriate. I'm so sorry for your loss, Doug. Thank you for the super chat, though. Sean Tibbett sends me a super sticker. Thank you very much indeed. If you build this 66 Chevelle, this will be my last build of my life. This will be my third build. So this is going to be your forever car. Good choice. Pretty car. I like it. You know, great. If that's your forever car and you do a good job rebuilding it, Doug, hope you find one to rebuild that's not completely done over already by some asshole. You know, you can make it your own and give it 350 horsepower and blow the doors off every other asshole with an eco-mobile. Awesome. Anyway, yeah, thanks for all the super chats, Doug. Hope you find your car.
I just want to
check this out, Nathan.
Just before you do, so I've got an explanation for what Pilpul. I can't read it on that screen. Let's just go to the other screen. Just 1 second. Sorry, Babs. Pilpul, the Talmudic art of endless argument. Oh, okay. Thank you. Didn't know that word. Learn something new every day. Thank you for clarifying it with money. Really appreciate the super chat. Go ahead, Babs.
Check this out, Nathan. I just looked up the definition of looming refraction, and it says here that while mirages are the best known atmospheric refraction phenomena, looming and similar refraction phenomena do not produce mirages. Mirages show an extra image or images of the mirage object, while looming, towering, stooping, and sinking do not. So that completely debunks what Rumpus is talking about, because from what I understand, from what you guys are saying, he's saying that what we're seeing is a duplicate image of something that's behind the curve, and that's not what looming is.
No, you're right. Their version of what they call looming is the hijacking of an actual atmospheric effect called looming or sinking or all the rest of the list you just detailed, and a transposition from an actual atmospheric effect, in this case looming, into something called terrestrial refraction, which is a mathematical presupposition, an insertion of an effect that will flatten out an observation, essentially. So it bends light around the presupposition of the curved Earth in the first instance. So first you have your curved Earth, then you're going to bend light around it and just call it refraction. Terrestrial refraction. It isn't terrestrial refraction. It isn't refraction. It's terrestrial refraction, i.e. they're begging the question 7/6R value. Actual refraction would be aptly described by all the lists that you just gave, Babs. So yeah, you do have the effects of sinking and looming. Anthony and Ranty have both caught them. We know what they look like, but the presupposition that it's actually terrestrial 7/6R refraction is utter nonsense. They just have to make it sound like they know what they're talking about when they describe atmospheric effects, only to later do a little bait and switch and insert 7/6R instead.
Right. Yeah. But Rumpus doesn't even know what the difference between looming and mirages are. He he's sort of conflating what the meaning of a mirage is with looming, because a mirage is a duplicate image of something that is being refracted, and he's saying that that's what looming is, and
No, I get you, but the point I'm trying to make, Babs, is he can do that all day long. He can be slightly off, incorrect, make a false comparison when detailing actual atmospheric effects, and it matters not. Because even if he's wrong, he's just going to say, oh, we just take all of this data that other people have researched to an nth degree about atmospheric conditions, and we boil all that down to our begging the question fallacy on steroids, 7/6R, and just arbitrarily apply it. So even if he's wrong, when he's arguing with someone about what atmosphere effects do what, well then who cares? He's never going to use that. He's not going to take any measurements and gather any data to show that. All he's going to do is arbitrarily bend light around a sphere at a given rate, which he may increase or decrease with mathematics where applicable. But ultimately it's just going to be the begging the question terrestrial refraction that's going to be applied. They're going to have to bend light around the sphere. That's the whole purpose of it. So them arguing about what atmospheric conditions do, or demonstrating their lack of knowledge or their exemplary knowledge in terms of atmospheric conditions, and in this case refraction and looming, is all for nothing, because all they're doing that for is so they can substitute all of that seeming knowledge for a begging the question fallacy on steroids 7/6R.
Oh, right. Yeah, I get it now.
Yeah, if I'm going to sell
Well, I
you...
noticed.
Go on, sorry.
I noticed the moon last night just coming over the horizon. It was huge because of atmospheric conditions, and I'm looking at it right now through my window, and it's much smaller than when I first saw it as it was over the horizon. So the atmospheric conditions, the lensing, whatever you want to call it, what did they say about that? Did the moon shrink in the middle of the night?
It doesn't matter. If you asked them and they gave you a description that was accurate in terms of what the atmospheric effects were, all they would later do is apply 7/6R instead, having convinced you they know what they're talking about when it comes to atmospheric conditions, just to bait and switch you with 7/6R. The begging the question fallacy on steroids. So not only is Earth automatically bending, Light's also bending around it at a rate we've predisposed to 7/6R.
Damn, you're right, Nathan. It really is just a cheap parlor trick, isn't it?
Yeah, bait and switch.
It's so rude that they would try to do that under our faces.
Yeah, it's a salesman telling you all about how wonderful a Ferrari is, and impressing you to the nth degree with knowing about how the Ferrari works and how the cylinders are laid out and the firing order and the maintenance schedule. And you go, wow, this guy really knows what he's talking. He goes, follow me. And then he sticks you in a Ford Escort and goes, right, off you go in the Ferrari. And you go, what? This isn't what you were just talking about. This is a completely different car. And they go, shh, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to Ferraris. Well, that's all they're doing. They talk about atmosphere like they know what they're talking about when it comes to refractive effects. And then they slowly they open the door of 7/6R begging the question fallacy and go, sit there, sir, in front of my 7/6R terrestrial refraction. That's what you're going to be driving. None of these atmospheric conditions that I talked about earlier, that being the Ferrari in my analogy, they're all irrelevant. The fact that I know all about Ferraris doesn't mean I'm going to be selling you a Ferrari here. I'm going to be selling you terrestrial refraction. Yeah, it's got the word refraction in it. Yeah, this is a Honda Ferrari. See that badge on the back? It says Ferrari right next to where it says Honda. Shh, drive. And then you're driving down the road in terrestrial refraction.
Well, it shows you how desperate they are, though.
Again, Flatsoid.
What?
It shows you how desperate they are to be right.
And also, they do that bait and switch
The
when it comes to
explanation that
vacuum
they're
and
going to
differential
give you
pressure.
for...
I don't know. Paul and
no,
Babs
I keep
both at the same
talking
time.
over
I'm going to go Paul just because Babs. Go ahead, Paul.
I said they do the same bait and switch when it comes to differential pressure and vacuum. They do the same thing. I can show you differential pressure. That's a vacuum, but that's not necessarily true.
Yeah, that's the red herring. So we've got gas pressure gradient. Same old red herring. Go ahead, Babs.
For 10th man's earlier question, what they're going to tell you about the moon's change in angular size is that they're going to use a begging the question orbital path that the moon takes and use that to explain why it appears to change size. It's called apogee and perigee.
Why are they not saying it's looming?
What's an orbit?
We're just going to say it's apogee and perigee, the moon's orbital path that makes it appear to change size.
Sounds like a
it
cheese
orbits
brand.
around the Earth.
The orbital path.
Yeah, Chocolate got there first, Darwin. Sorry. Chocolate's all over this like flies on you know what. What was that? You said Chocolate?
Orbit?
Hey, what's orbit?
What's that again?
It's begging the question fallacy.
Oh, so we're going to be assuming Earth has got a radius value and these things are falling around that presupposed sphere, are we? Nope.
Not we, them.
Nope.
Yeah. Why does the not actual size of the moon change as it moves from its not actual position? That's not really that useful. Its angular size is kind of irrelevant. Just read out this super chat from Godzilla again. Another definition for it. Endless nitpicking. Ah, I see. Is that not what globers do? Yeah, they major on the minors, as Bible literalist puts it. Thanks for the super chat, Godzilla. Really appreciate it.
Can you pop me on the screen, Nate?
Yeah.
This is a response to Not Flat in the chat. I actually think that this Not Flat character, whoever's in there, is probably Dazza the cameraman, because he keeps quoting an observation by Dazza the cameraman or something like that, who's done an observation from Hilber Island looking at Blackpool Tower from 30.9 miles away, which I'll actually get to that in this video because it's a similar observation. But what you got to ask yourself here is that this observation that I'm going to show you now is from 28 miles away. Okay, so I'm going to play the video a little bit. 28 miles away to the tower, right, and 26 miles away to the roller coaster. So this is where he did his observation from. This is at 28 miles. Now let's scroll in and see what the observation showed, right? Half of the tower down to there, where my cursor is, and all of the roller coaster should be hidden to Earth curve at 28 miles, right?
No,
now
not
then,
right. Sorry, you shouldn't have added that rhetorical right in there. Otherwise, I would have just left you to it. No, that's not what we should see.
This is not flat.
What we see, I just want to get it in. I'll let you go. Just get 2 seconds. What we see is dictated by our eyeballs, not by what a model says. So when you say we should see this amount of the roller coaster, what we should see according to a begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator, correct?
Yes.
No, not correct. My eyeballs tell me what I see. Anyway, carry on.
I don't know. I think it kind of looks like a giant floating space city that is hovering over the Earth beyond the curve.
Okay, I'll get you back on track. So, yeah, according to the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator, half the tower and the entire roller coaster should be hidden. If you believe the model is what you see, you don't. Your eyes do. Carry on, Runty. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, so this is from 28 miles away. Now, if we just go to 30.9 miles away, which is right at the end over here, let's see, let's get it up to where it's lit up. This is the similar observation. Here we go, right at the end, 30.9 miles away. Now, what we see is probably, I would say, 2/3 of the tower. We've got the top part of the tower and we've got a part here, but we do have things hidden, right? This is from just an extra 2.9 miles away, right? And it's from a different location looking across. Now, I've already addressed this, by the way. I've already spoken to Not Flat about this and done videos about it as well, proving that when you look across from this location, you're looking across channels that will funnel the water and cause localized bulging, which will force the height of the water up, right? So this is from 30.9 miles away, and we get probably, I would say, 200 feet or so of obstruction, right? But when you go over here to 28 miles away, you see flat as a pancake. Flat as a pancake. Yeah. So it's proof, absolute proof, that when you just looking over certain locations from certain places, if you're looking over a channel or anything like that, especially when you're looking into Liverpool, when you're going across that channel and you get the tide coming in and going out, you actually get this localized bulging. It's something I've spoken about. So not flat. You need to go back to the drawing board and just don't always turn around and say, if there is obstruction, it is earth curve. No, there is a multitude of things that can get in the way. And this is not a mirage. This is just seeing it because it's there. I've seen it hundreds of times. Tony's seen it hundreds of times. It's just flat.
Thank you very much, Ranty. Excellent.
Yeah,
No
awesome. Awesome photographs.
Cool. So no signs of curvature then. What about axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Wow, that was all. First question.
Yeah, that was all Earth curve. Yeah. I like it when the questions take half an hour to answer because it's been 3 years of asking them and getting to these concise summaries, but with evidence, with rebuttal, all summarised by Ranty in one neat little 10-minute package. Absolutely awesome. Can you imagine doing that 2 years ago, Ranty? Be honest.
No, I mean, back then we just knew we were seeing stuff, and we were just saying, yeah, we can see further than the Earth curve calculator. And back then we used to beg the question. We begged it a lot, and we used to go into that mode of giving them refraction and stuff like this. When we can still see further though. And then through the past couple of years of doing this research and understanding how our world works, understanding nature, and putting all that into our knowledge base, basically, we've been able to turn it around and say, you think you see an Earth curvature because you've got some blockage there. But is that really Earth curvature? Let's look for any other reasons. And then you go and you find the other reasons. And it's very easy to look into that and find these reasons for why you will sometimes see obstruction. Simple as that.
When Ranty says these reasons, about 6, maybe 8 months ago, it wasn't actually Tim Osman that was the originator of the material, but certainly Tim Osman published a massive list of all of the, what he called excuses. Now, what he's comparing it to is, we see an observation, a picture, and we only attribute one cause for obstruction, Earth curve. The presupposition thereof is the only cause of things being obscured in the distance. And then Ranty comes along and shows all actual things that can cause things to be obstructed because there's something between you and it that's higher. Simple. And that all of the things Ranty and others had put on there, including perspective, which we're not even covering at the moment, we're just covering physical obstructions, i.e. the water's bulged up between you and the thing you're looking at. Well, those lists were all ignored in favour of assuming Earth's a sphere. In other words, it doesn't matter if you've got an actual effect that can be quantified or measured. No, none of those are allowed. It's just us begging the question of an R value that's allowed to account for any effect you see in any picture ever. All other actual effects that you can encounter must be discounted because it can only be Earth curve. So it was a massive turnaround because at the time they're thinking, aren't we smart? We've listed all of their excuses for Earth curve. It's like, what are you talking about? All of these things that have been researched heavily and demonstrated as fact, you're going to say, no, we just say Earth curve. And here's your excuse for Earth curve. What? Your excuse for you begging the question and forcing a model upon somebody when they look at a photograph and telling them what they should or shouldn't see in it based on what a model tells you should be there rather than your bloody eyeballs. So it became farcical. Their lists of excuses are actually things that do occur in nature, as opposed to just assuming Earth's a sphere and it's blocking your view because it's got an edge. Yeah, right, fundies, globeheads, just one last point. You've got an edge. The edge you think boats go over? Yeah, it's so interesting that we're asked for an edge and we don't have one to offer, but you have an edge that you claim, a reification of the horizon. The vanishing point, you think is the edge of a model that you reify. So I want the fundies, especially the ones who watch this show, to take me to your edge. Where's your edge of a sphere, fundies? Boats going over the edge, are they? Oh, show me that edge. What's that? You can't get there because it's not an actual location. coincidentally is the point where things vanish into the distance. The vanishing point. Oh, what a coincidence. Not Earth curve then. Not an edge, fundies.
But
That
Nathan,
must feel good to say that. Like, where's
Does.
the edge, ballers? Where's the
Yeah,
edge?
it does feel good, Arwin. Where's the edge, ballers?
you just don't understand. I can use trigonometry and figure out where the edge is out there. Come on, don't you get this?
What, the horizon, a not actual location where the sky appears to meet the ground. You can do trig on a not actual location that you think is an edge, Mr. Globehead Paul.
Right. Oh, by the way, I wanted to make a point a little bit earlier on considering the horizon and what we've been most of the time calling obstruction. I find I tried to input that earlier, that maybe even calling it obstruction is already nudging it slightly towards the baller's favor, because obstruction would imply that something would literally be in front of something else, when obviously some of these horizon miraging effects are not physical obstruction. It rather seems to be concealed.
Correct.
And if you call it concealed, then you take away that visualization of something being in front of something else.
Or, not concealed, interfered with. So, interference being the point where you lose the resolution, the ability to resolve the information at the point that you get these interference effects, diffraction effects. Well, that's the point that you're talking about, where there is no atmospheric conditions to take account for, but you've still got a millimetre underneath with an inverted mirage. Well, you're not having mirages loomed up from behind a model that's being reified on the basis of a calculator they use. What you're actually seeing is a genuine mirage of a very small amount at the point where there isn't too limited an angle to resolve any information in the first instance. Now, these are perspective effects, and you're right, Arwin, you're absolutely correct. Why call it an obstruction? And that's why I gave clarity earlier when I said we're not talking about perspective yet. We're talking about actual physical obstructions. Ranty's gone out and actually found, no, this is an obstruction. I mean, not heavy arguments.
Oh, right. The tidal bulge, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is actual obstruction. But that's all only at the coast.
Well,
But the general visual effect that there will be no physical obstruction. So
yeah,
sorry.
it's more the shoaling effect. The water is always moving. Water is always moving, especially over in oceans and seas. It's always having a tidal effect on it. They've always got different heights of the water. The topography of the land underneath is always different and changing. You have channels where the boats can have to navigate, because otherwise they'll get grounded because it's very shallow. And then they have a nice deep channel that they can sail through and they can go into port. Well, in those channels, when you've got the tides pushing in and pushing out, you get all this shoaling effect that artificially increases the height of the water. And globers want you to put your water as flat. The deck is always moving. The water deck is always moving. It's always having an effect of some kind of pressure on it, and you'll get localized bulging. But the globers want you to be saying, well, you say it's a flat Earth. Well, it must be flat then. They can't comprehend that the water can have areas where it is localized bulging, and it's all caused by the topography of the land and the pressure of the water coming in and going out.
Indeed.
Perfect.
And thank you so much for that research, Ranty. He's so right about what he says, and he's done the homework so much that even Mick West temporarily adapted his curvature calculator to mention that any bulge at the water would not be taken into would have to be taken into account for. It's that real. Don't forget about that. That was huge.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Scientific evidence of what?
Gravity. Scientific evidence thereof.
Gravity B? No.
Is that Travis?
Yeah. I called him on Skype just so he could do that.
What's up, man?
Oh. hello. What ho?
Good to have you.
Good to be here.
No. Scientific evidence of relative density with no explanation as to why the directions, even though it seems to be very much set that the denser in relation to the medium goes down and the less dense in relation to the medium goes up. And that is scientifically provable. As for gravity and all those assumptions, no, that they just try to piggyback onto real things and then try to correlate it all into their globe science fiction outer space world.
Gravity
Or
seems to be
no.
the magical.
Or you could just say no.
Yeah.
Sorry, someone in Discord was trying to get a word in. Go again, if you will.
I was just saying that gravity is just the magic answer to every one of their problems.
Yeah, George Musa. It's like magic. Any evidence of any viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics in their entire histories?
There should be one for 10th man. There. 10th man has been in contact with an astrophysicist who has refused to answer this question.
Doesn't seem to be there anymore. Yeah,
And she.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and she also has a video, which I posted, that she says, ask the astrophysicist anything. So we've asked her something, but she's not answered.
Someone play the otaku video.
But just let's round that out. She was asked for scientific evidence. She said that she was going away to do science in the video, the AMA video. So 10th man approached her and said, you said you were going away to do science. What science did you do? Can you let me know what the independent variable, dependent variable, and control variables were for the science that you were doing? And she went away and said that she'd looked at some information. So he said, well, that's not scientific evidence. And so the conversation continued with somebody else as opposed to her, or lots of other people, I assume.
I asked this question to a friend of mine that was he's a doctor in philosophy at a university when flat Earth first started, and he said, well, you know, he talked about astronomy and astrophysicists and all this stuff, and I said, how much time do you think that they're actually looking at the stars or trying to evaluate the stars, or are they looking at a textbook and at computer models? And of course, he fell silent after I pointed that out to him. Just interesting that and I watched the video that she did, and she was sitting in a lecture listening to someone else's data. I don't see her out there trying to figure out what the stars are herself, so that was interesting.
That's why the question is what it is. It's a great question. It's the newest housekeeping question, but any viable hypotheses from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics in their entire history is pertinent because they are pseudoscience fields that assert science as their justification for their stories about what our world is. Any evidence of Go on.
So yeah, the evidence for dark energy and dark matter, so to speak, in astronomy or astrophysicists is math, because our math doesn't add up right. So we have to make up this substance or this energy that you can't touch, feel, taste, or even verify.
Well, it was always math in the first place, you know? It was math. So they put in the math in order to make it work, and then they had to put in more math to offset it, to kind of neutralize it. So how ironic is that?
Speaking of
math magic, right?
Yep, speaking of mathematical magical nonsense, any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Based on an assumption, based on a standard model.
R based on R?
Pretty much, yep.
Wait. Let me dig this up.
It's the reason we call the calculator the begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator. The begging the question part is the assumption of the R value, automatically assuming Earth is a sphere, and then having to bend things like light around your presupposed sphere with terrestrial refraction is where, or a similar situation to what Arwen's just described, you create a mathematical construct that seems to parallel something you observe, and then say it's your world, and then when things don't match up, you've got to create more mathematical bullshit to cover up the cracks, which is why you end up with what we call a begging the question fallacy on steroids, not just assuming Earth's a sphere with a radius value based on the standard model, which is based on the R value, circular reasoning, but also bending light at 7/6 of that radius value. It's just preposterous. Smearing in the cracks when people figure out why it's not the model that we're looking at when we open our eyes. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of that presupposed spherical Earth?
Is the foot.
At the center, which would be what, almost 4,000 miles, and we've only supposedly reached almost 8. I don't know how we'd be able to confirm anything 4,000 miles down. We haven't even reached 8. So,
Right.
I don't know. Sounds like guesswork to me.
Well, even if you made it to 4,000, would you still be assuming that you're actually measuring a radius of a presupposed sphere that you're digging into? You're going to confirm that by digging down all the way to the centre of that presupposed value?
Well, you could confirm it by digging down another 4,000 miles after that, right?
Yeah, coming out the other end.
Why not? Because it's a ball, right? Because that's what it is.
Oh, wait, you mean like what's the name of that movie again? The new Total Recall movie. Have you seen that? With the elevator through the core?
Nah, I didn't see that. The new Total Recall? I don't remember that.
You don't?
What is it
Uh,
called?
came
The
out
Fall
Well, I
of
didn't like that movie very much, so not much of it stuck with me. So
Neither did I, but
could have just
it
glanced
had.
over me. I don't know.
Well, I didn't really like it compared to the old Arnold version, which is just amazing. But it still had that science fiction thing of a giant elevator that would go through the core because it was a lot faster or something. Yeah.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
I don't know. I've never
Hillbilly
seen a
Blue.
demonstration of that.
Anybody in Discord got something for that?
See, it's my understanding that to get gas pressure, you have to have a container for it to press against.
Yeah, the clue's in the title.
Hmm.
It's not just a coinky dink that they named it pressure.
No,
Literally using the word press in it. That's not a correlation. Just
no. Words have
we have
meanings.
to take
Chocolate.
that.
That's-
Words have meaning.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
According to the ballers, the gas all presses on itself. What they really think. Because of gravity, which I don't know what it actually is.
Stick Paul's screen on, so Paul's showing us multiple gradients in a container, just in case anybody comes along and says, but we've got gas pressure gradients. Well, yeah, show us a gas pressure gradient without a container.
There's actually in the video.
Oh wow, that's cool. I've never seen that. What is that?
Yeah. So it starts out like this. Let me see if I can find it. It starts out like this, which means the pressure is pretty much even across the whole cylinder. But as he puts the frequencies in and he starts to manipulate it, pressure gradient forms, and he can get it to be, slight, little. He can control it. See, of course, his name words have to pop up on there. Look at that one. You got really high pressure and very low pressure up and down the cylinder. So there's one here where it pulsed, like if I can find it.
But isn't that without a container?
No, there's a container involved. Here, let me show you. Let's see if I can find the beginning of the video.
It's on screen now.
Okay.
It's the cylindrical silvery thing.
Right, but if you look, he brings in the propane in the tank to the left, and then he has a cylinder.
Yeah.
So he has to have a tank to bring in, and then he has to have a cylinder to maintain the pressure, to get it to do even the differential pressure.
But wait, that cylinder's got holes in it. Does that mean it's not a container, Paul?
It's containing the gas. It's leaking, and entropy is, or increase in entropy is occurring, but the gas is contained even in a hole or cylinder with a hole in it.
It's leaking. It's a leaky container.
This is a cool video. because I'm not going to play it for Nathan's sake. But
There's a hole in his bucket.
yeah, and like there's one here where he actually, like towards the end here, look at that one. He actually increased the pressure using sound. Just increased the pressure across the, even there's a differential pressure, but he really increased the pressure across the whole thing. And the gas is probably constant coming from the propane tank. So the amount of the amount of gas is constant, constantly being injected, but it's the sound waves that's increasing or decreasing the pressure.
Propane tank, you said?
Yeah, here, I'll go back there and show that again here, right there. See the propane tank to the left? See it?
Can you just say,
Yep.
Paul, can you just say propane and propane accessories, please?
Can I say propane and propane accessories? Is that what you said?
That's perfect, thanks.
Yeah, you have to even maintain propanes, to be able to transport propane, it has to be in a contained system, because at its boiling point, it becomes a gas at a very high, or is it low temperature or high temperature? I can't remember exactly how that works.
Or would that propane be in a separate system than our atmosphere system?
I'm sorry, Flatfoot, say that again, or ask that again.
Would that propane be in a separate system?
Well, I guess once you open the valve on the propane tank, this whole becomes it all becomes one system, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's my point. So if Earth is a globe, it's a separate system to space then, correct?
You would think.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as he opens the valve, the propane flows from the tank into the cylinder. So it's moving from one system to another.
I would love to know where the valve is on Earth.
Chocolate, you must forget. They say it's closed and open at the same time.
Oh man.
No. The new word now, I heard Pepe say this. It's approximately closed. Approximately. Yeah. Approximately. Come on now. You don't know what approximately means?
So is that container an approximately closed container with its gas leaking out of it?
I guess it would be approximately closed according to their
it's not, is
definition.
it? It's open.
But not all of it's escaping all at once, Nathan. Come on.
It's still an open container. It's just an open container.
Would there be matter leaving?
And you know what happens with an open container? The gas leaks out. So if we're an approximately open closed container, whatever the contradiction they come up with, well then the gas still leaks out, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what's causing the flame. He ignited the flame and the gas is escaping and he's using it to make the flame. Is that right? Do I get that right?
Before we round out, could I ask a quick question? I've been dying to ask this for a while now.
Just one more housekeeping question. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No.
Go ahead, Babs.
Right, so, yeah, sorry to change gears. I just sent an image to Paul. I don't know if he got it or not. Did you get that image, Paul?
Yeah, I did. Hang on. I'm trying to get it pulled up. Give me a second. Are you T Cozy?
Yeah, that's me, yeah.
Okay, hang on. I have to redo the sharing, so hang on. Change my share.
I like that. Tea cozy. Why the tea cozy? It's great.
I like to be different.
It's up. Go ahead.
Okay, Babs.
Right, so back on the obstruction topic that we were talking about earlier, a lot of the ballers say that bottom-up obstruction is impossible because everything that we see in the distance is at our eye level, and if it's being obstructed by something that's below our eye level, that isn't possible, but they fail to acknowledge that perspective is taking place, and perspective appears to make the ground rise upward to eye level. So, for example, let's say this is a hallway that we're looking at, and in the background, there's a wall at the end of that hallway. If I was to take, say, a block or a brick and put it like really close to that wall, it would appear to obstruct it from the bottom. Although that's below our eye level, it's still obstructing it at the bottom. But what they're claiming is that the things that we see are being obstructed more than like higher than what our eye level is. Like, for example, if we have a building in the distance, we're only going to see half of that building. And they say that's impossible because the stuff that's below our eye level can't obstruct things that are at our eye level in the distance, if that makes sense. So
Sure.
I just wanted to know how that works, or if you guys have an explanation
Yes,
for
I
that.
do.
I know this is a
Yes.
really butchered
You can be my stooge, Babs. Okay, I'm going to take a brick, and the brick happens to be about a foot high. Okay, and you're going to put it in front of you at a distance of 10 meters or there or thereabouts. Okay, can you see the brick?
Yeah.
If I take the same brick and push it out to about a mile, can you still see the brick?
No, it's too small.
It's too small to see. So the brick got closer and closer to the horizon as it got further and further away, and eventually it became too small to see. We're in agreement so far.
Right.
Okay, now that brick is going to stay in the same position as it was, where it is, too small to see. I'm now going to put a further 250 bricks on top of that exact same brick. Can you see the 250 bricks I've stacked on top of it?
That's a tough one.
Okay,
I'm
it's
gonna
now.
say,
Hold on.
go ahead.
I'm going to put 2 million bricks. I'm going to build a skyscraper on top of that first brick that is still at the same distance and too small to see. Can you see the skyscraper?
Yeah, because it's bigger.
Yeah, but the brick's still too small to see at the horizon.
Right.
So we've got a skyscraper that's visible with one brick at the bottom that we can't see because it's too small. Ergo, this building is one brick, according to them, obscured by Earth curve? Or is that brick just too small to see at the bottom of this building?
The brick is too small to see at the bottom of that building.
So the angular limitation at the horizon, where your angle is most limited, causes things to reach and breach the diffraction limit. Vanishing point. The brick at a mile is too small to see. You build a building on top of the brick. You can see the building, but the angular resolution of the brick it's built on is still too small to see. Ergo, bottom up, what they call obstruction, is just an angular limitation. It's called perspective.
Right. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, rest in peace, Earth curve.
That's the hijacking part of the Earth curve calculator description, begging the question, because it assumes R, perspective hijacking. Because what this effect that I've just described of the brick disappearing at distance, but the things on top of the brick not disappearing because they're bigger, larger angular size, is what they remove from the Earth curve calculator by using actual sizes. I've described an angular limitation to that brick at the bottom. Well, they just say, this building is a 200-foot building. Why are we missing 8 inches of the building at the bottom? Well, hold on a second. You're saying that a feet and inches value that will not change with distance has suddenly got a need to account for how much is missing at the bottom in feet and inches. Well, this building, let's say it's a 100-foot high building, if you push that building that's 100 feet in this example, specifically 100 feet, to 1,000,000 miles, well, then it's still a 100-foot building. So therefore, we should see it at 1,000,000? No, we shouldn't, because the angular size of that 100-foot building has got smaller and smaller and smaller as you got further and further away from it. The angular size reduces with distance, something that's ignored in their perspective hijacking curve calculator. A 10-foot wall or a 100-foot building is 10 foot if you're stood next to it, or it's 1,000,000 miles away. And this effectively removes all aspects of perspective from their curve calculator. They're calling the effects of perspective, the brick disappearing in the distance when it gets too small, they're calling that effect Earth curve.
Right. They also failed to mention that the waves in the foreground can also appear to obstruct objects that are in the background just because of angular size differences.
Yeah, Ranty covered that beautifully earlier. So if you've got something that's bigger than it in the near foreground, its angular size could be potentially larger than the thing in the distance with a smaller angular size, i.e. a bulge of water trying to force its way into a nice narrow passage, or the other way around, escape from a narrow passage, bulges up and becomes a larger angular size in your middle distance than the thing you're focusing on in the far distance. Therefore, the angular size is larger and it obscures the thing in the background. Oh, what's that you say, fundamentalist religious zealot with a globe belief? That's Earth curve. No, it isn't. It's an angular size differential that causes something in the near foreground to obscure something in the distance through angular size, something completely ignored in their calculation. And with that, I'll say if you are watching on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on Nathan Oakley 1980, this is where we bid you farewell. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. A massive thank you to all of today's Discord and G+ panels for making this live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley channel. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!